This is the plaintiff, Letha Flowers. She says she rented a room in the defendant's house, and a creepy guy would go into a room when she wasn't there to snoop around, which is not okay. He would also lounge around in her room on the couch, which was very uncomfortable for her because he didn't live there, and he saw her in her bra. This was very alarming to her. She moved out and is now suing this guy for the $10,000 she feels she's owed. This is the defendant, Peter Chang. He says the strange plaintiff smoked in her room, which was a big no-no. And when he confronted her about it, she accused him of invading her privacy. She went ahead and hired a lawyer who told him she was suing him and is one of those professional rent scammers who thinks he's afraid of her $10,000 lawsuit. Guess what, lady? He's not scared and can't wait to tell his side of things to the judge. He's accused of being a snoop. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $3,775 for unpaid rent, smoke damage, and leaving a mess behind.
All parties, please raise your right hand. Be seated. Come to order, please. I love it. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right. Letha Flowers, you are suing your landlord for $10 grand, which you say he owes you in back rent, lost wages, security deposit, and lawyer fees. Because according to you, he violated your privacy. You have a counterclaim against her because she breached, according to you, her 3-month lease. So you found this room. You rented a room in a house, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and why were you renting this room?
I took a job with Stanford, and I lived in Sacramento where I resided, and I took a job in Stanford.
Stanford University?
Stanford University Healthcare.
Okay, what were you going to do for them?
Healthcare IT, electronic medical records.
Okay.
And so when I got the job, I had to find, a place. I needed to move from Sacramento to...
Because the ride from Sacramento would be how long?
The ride there is probably about 4 hours, so it wasn't feasible for a drive with traffic. So I needed to move. So what I was looking to do was to rent a room because I have a child that was graduating high school.
Right.
So when I researched Peter from Craigslist, it was to rent a room until the month of June.
And then he had originally wanted first and last month's rent, and that felt ridiculous with such a small lease. So he accommodated you and just made it first month and a $500 deposit.
Yes, ma'am. We discussed that first online. And
who else was living in the house?
At the time, no one. And when I discussed with him what my plans were, he told me that his wife, every now and then, may use one of the rooms upstairs. I asked him, was he going to be renting out the home to any men? Because I was not going to be living with any men. I was looking for a home with just women. Okay. He said absolutely not, that his wife would be there from time to time, and he was not going to allow any men in the room, in the house with her as well.
All right, and so who else was going to live there?
He, at that time, had a renter that was going to come and look at the place, which was going to be a lady. She was going to rent the downstairs room.
And did she?
She did. Her name is Sally, and she did end up renting it.
You move in March what?
We started the lease on the 13th. I moved in probably around, it was right before work, I want to say March 14th in the morning.
Okay, and the lease is supposed to go for March, April, and May up to June 13th, right?
Up to June 14th, yes, ma'am.
June 14th. All right, and then what happens? What goes wrong?
On March 23rd, I hadn't even been in the house, for a couple weeks. He had already started kind of showing, I took it as him being just an older gentleman. It's his home, but he was kind of like always around.
How?
In his garage. If he wasn't in the garage, he was just around, No,
I don't know. I need you to tell me how.
Well, he was in the garage. If he wasn't in the garage, he was in the living room.
Doing what?
He said that it was his things. He said it was his home. So what
would you say to him? What are you doing here?
Yes, and I said, sir, I can't live with you. And he told me that he had a lot of things. He said that because we originally talked about me taking over the entire home, right? So he said, well,
meaning that you would get to rent it.
Exactly.
And move your family, and your family is your mother and your daughter.
For $3,050 is what he discussed with me.
Right.
And so when I saw him there, I assumed it was because he had a lot of stuff there. So I said, okay, well, I told my mom, I said, well, maybe he's trying to get some things situated because 3 months is going to come really quick.
If you saw him sitting on a couch, he's not getting things situated. So did you see him sitting on a couch, or did you see him moving stuff out? Which is it?
I saw him sitting on the couch talking. Well, he came to talk to me, basically, just, just there, kind of.
Is he there every day?
So, okay, so let me finish. So when I went there
Well,
on March...
first answer my question. Is he there every day? When you say he's always there, is he there every day? Did you mean to say?
A total of 4 times is what I have.
4 times you saw him there during your tenancy. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
So the first time is when?
First time was the March 13th. When I moved in, I said...
That's when you're moving in and
Yes,
signing
ma'am.
leases. He better be there because he's signing leases with you, right?
After he got done signing the lease, I wanted to get in. I wanted to get acclimated into the home. He stayed. I said, I have to go to work, Peter. He said, okay. I said, I'll take a lift, Peter. He said, well, it's okay. I'll take you. So I said, fine. So I let Peter drop me off at my job.
Oh, that was big of you.
At that point,
So that's the first time you said. When's the second time you see
the
him?
second time was on March 23rd,
Okay, let's
which
talk
was a
about that.
Saturday morning.
And that's the day of the painting.
That's the day where he sent me a text message saying that he was actually in the unit. I was outside by the pool of the community. And he sent me a text message saying, are you around? Because I'm going to call painters. And I said, well, yeah, I'm going to be home today. Wasn't a big deal. I said, I'm thinking, okay, what time? He says, I'm already in the unit. I've already started painting. And I said, well, wait a minute. I need to go in the room and I need to get my things. There was no notice.
Were you taken aback that he was?
Absolutely.
Were
It
you
was a
offended?
Saturday. I was greatly offended. It was a Saturday. I'm just relaxing.
Can you explain why your text to him was, oh, awesomeness?
Because he said, I'm going to be painting. And I said,
because
what?
you were happy that he was going to be painting, because that's your text back to him. It's,
My text back
oh,
to-
awesomeness.
My text back to him about, oh, awesomeness was because he was going to paint. Not that you were in the house that day.
Why didn't you just tell him this today doesn't work for me?
I said, Peter, can I come
Right,
in
but
the
today
house?
may have worked for Sally, or today may work for his wife and the unit he still has. But if it doesn't work for you in your room, you could always say, hey,
I did.
no, today's not good. Do it tomorrow.
I did, ma'am, but because he
You
was
said that? You said today's not good?
not in a text, he was in the home.
He says, Yuli, are you home? We are doing painting today. To which you respond, hey, Peter, yes, sir, I'm home. Painting what areas? To which he responds, the whole unit. Touch up. To which you respond, okay, awesomeness. Thanks, Peter. What time? To which he responds, we are painting right now. Living room and Sally's room. When you are out, we will work on your room. To which you respond, can you let me get my room together first? To which he responds, I'm here, yes. There's not a thing about this that says, who do you think you are? I demand notice. You're just happy as heck that they're going to paint the room.
Can I say something?
Can you answer what I am asking you?
I'm
Because
not-
this
I'm
is
sorry.
important, because you brought a lawsuit for 10 grand.
I'm just
So
not
I'm
sure
going to
what
cross-examine you.
I'm
I
just
want to
trying to say-
understand what was so unpleasant about that. You had a lawyer write that man a letter about the violation of privacy rights and all this other stuff. How was this right here a violation of privacy rights? Just say, hey, today's not good for me. You need to give me notice if that's how you feel.
The violation of privacy, ma'am, was in his lease, he said that he would give me a 24-hour notice.
So if you don't like it, if now's not good for you,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
I could understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Just say, hey, no, don't do my room today. You're going to have to do it a different day. I'm not ready. You needed to.
Unfortunately, I went in the home and we had this discussion. I did not think this was going to go this way.
So
I didn't
you had a
continue
discussion
text
different from what
messages.
I'm reading?
Ma'am, I'm not trying to portray anything. Basically, what I'm saying is what I did on my private time should be my private time.
Sure.
He
So
wrote in
just
the
tell the
lease-
truth.
He-
Tell me
I'm
the truth.
telling you
What
the
went
truth.
wrong with this? Because you
What
broke
went
the
wrong
lease.
with this is
you ended
that-
up breaking a lease, and I'm trying to understand why you broke the lease.
I'm gonna finish.
And then come to court to sue for 10 grand.
I'm going to finish and
So
tell you exactly
right now,
that.
what I would like to do is hear from him, and I'll be right back with you. I'll be right back with you when I am ready to be back with you. When was the first time that you realized that she was unhappy?
On the 19th of April.
Okay, and what did she say to you?
Well, because she's paid the rent in cash, which I don't like it. So I had to write a receipt to her.
Okay.
So I went to her room. Then I saw that the light is on, the fan is on, everything's on, and the room is a mess. I didn't say it, the room is a mess, but I just said, I called her, I said, come on, you cannot leave all the lights on when you're away. So I called, then she get really upset. She said, I violate her privacy.
Okay.
All the time. She's very nice.
Until that moment.
Yeah.
Now, was there a different problem? Because she had mentioned earlier that she had expected that come June, she would be able to move in with her mother and her daughter. Tell me about that.
Okay, now, you see, we communicate on March the 10th. It's a Sunday. Then she said she would come on Wednesday. On that date, she said maybe she would rent the whole house after
It's
3
before
months.
she moves in that she says that?
Right. We thought, I said, maybe. We think about maybe. We even agree
So
on the
you say
price.
maybe.
Maybe, yeah, but not written, okay?
Right.
So then on the 15th, she moved in, okay? Then on the 19th, she was really upset. Yeah, but I think before that, I wrote a letter to her, said that given more thought, I should not really rent the whole thing to you because we really need it.
Do you have that letter?
I do.
Can I see it?
I have it here.
Okay, and let me see your copy too. I want to make sure we're looking at the same thing.
Yeah. I wrote the letter because I don't want to face it because it's embarrassing.
I bought this property in 2013 to cut down commuting time from San Jose to Hayward. Same as your purpose. But he bought the property. Therefore, it does not make sense for us to rent the whole unit. In other words, your stay in this unit is until mid-June when you find a place for you and your family. That is when the problems began. Did you not decide to break the lease over this?
No, ma'am.
Why did you decide to break the lease according to you?
I decided to break the lease on April 19th when he texted me and told me that he was in the unit again for the third time and told me that he went into my bedroom, and that was beyond a violation for me. There was no reason for him to go into.
Did you go into his bedroom to leave the rent?
Peter told me to put the rent money on his desk.
And so he walks into your room, which I understand that you would find creepy or whatever, and he puts a receipt instead of slipping it under your door. Did you leave your door closed or open?
My door was absolutely closed, and I wasn't gone for several days.
So what he should have done is slip the receipt under the door. But what he did instead was put it on your desk. You make it sound like you rifled through your unmentionables.
In my opinion, when you have a lease that says you're going to give someone a 24-hour notice.
Yeah, I know, but you're acting like you rented this whole place. Your landlord is popping up in your bathroom to your surprise. It's a little different. You rented a room in a place where your landlord and his wife stay. But can I ask you something? Because this is the reason I am a little upset. When I ask you, is this letter the reason that you want to leave? And you look me right in the eye and say, absolutely not. I would have stayed to the end of June, right? Are you being as truthful about that as you are about the rest of your testimony?
I had nowhere else to go. I'm absolutely being truthful.
I would definitely have stayed there, Okay, so now I'm going to read your text to you. Yuli, I'm in the unit. Feel smoke in my room, also the garage. Condition is no smoking. I count the money. It's $12.75. I will write you a receipt. You answer, I don't have any reason to be in your room, Peter. And again, never smoked in your house. Thanks. However, I do need to discuss with you your email and my leaving your property. Peter, you know for a fact that you offered for me and my daughter to take over the entire house.
Yes.
In June.
Yes.
Now, 4/11, you sent an email saying that I can't. I'm not financially prepared to try to pay you my home in Sacramento and save in less than 2 months to move. I will be leaving your property the first week of May, which is my right.
That is the day I received his email. So when he was texting me, I was responding to his email.
Exactly what I said, which is, now that I know I can't rent the whole place, I'm not going to respect my lease. Not, you're a creepy, pedophile who's hanging out in my room and violating my privacy. It's this. To which he responds, that is not your right to violate the agreement. To which you respond, Peter, it was agreed, just not in writing, which I learned a very valuable lesson.
Here it is right here, where we talked about the roommate moving in as well as her.
So the reason you want to leave in the beginning of May is that you can't rent the whole place.
No, ma'am.
You come in and go as you please, which is very uncomfortable. And as soon as he tells you no, you can't breach a lease. So it's exactly how it goes down is like this. I can't rent the whole place, and you told me I could, so my last week is May.
No, ma'am.
No, you can't. You can't violate the agreement because we have a 3-month lease.
No, ma'am. Peter violated the agreement several times.
You come and go as you please, so I'm violating the lease. That's the reason once he tells you, no, you can't break the lease. See, at my job, I got to make sure of 2 things. Number one, I have to look at what you're describing, and I have to agree with you that gives you a right to walk out on a lease. That's the first thing I got to do. Then the next thing I got to do is figure out whether I'm going to agree with you that he owes you $10,000. Because it's not just you broke your lease and you don't want to have to pay it. You want your security deposit back, but you also want any rent you've ever paid back, even though you were there for 2 months. You want $6,000 in wages. What's that about?
I gave you everything. There's my letter of work. I made $57 an hour, and I lost my job. And
I'm sorry, you lost your job. Why?
I lost my job because I could not commute from Sacramento to the Bay Area.
Why didn't you just rent another place then?
Because I didn't have the money, ma'am.
When did you lose your job at Stanford?
I lost my job on May 10th.
Well, of course you don't want to stay until June because you no longer have a job that you were going to be working at. Why would he have to
No, I
pay
couldn't
you?
leave until June anyway because my daughter graduated high
Can
school.
I just ask you a question? What did he do to violate your rights other than leave a receipt in your room?
Ma'am, first of all, I had my underwear out, my room. I washed clothes before I left to go to Easter to spend with my mom. No one ever thinks that because you have a landlord that he's going to go into your bedroom. So I left my things. I washed my clothes just like a normal woman would. When Peter went into my bedroom, into my bathroom, that for me was that was the creepiest thing I've ever felt in my life because it was unnecessary.
You
for him,
led a very blessed life, if that's the creepiest thing you've ever felt in your life.
Well, I'm
you have no
sorry.
right to walk into a room that somebody's renting. Just don't do it. That is how people want it to be. One time the guy puts a receipt, and you want me to believe that you are a victim of the worst form of violation possible, instead of what I'm reading with my own eyeballs.
No, that's
now
because
you also want the
wow.
lost wages for the time in May that, according to you, the reason why you no longer have the job at Stanford is because you couldn't get to work on time. Now, why don't you wake up earlier and get to work on time?
I have to leave at 5 a.m.
Why don't you leave at 4:30 and get to work
There's
on
no
time?
train, ma'am.
You lost your job over
There's
it.
no train.
Then
There
why
was
don't you
no
take
way.
the $12.50 you weren't paying for June and go ahead and pay it somewhere else?
It's not that easy to just find a place.
Okay,
That's
but
simple.
you know
if it
what?
Was,
you know
I
what
would have
doesn't
done
happen? That is a you problem.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Harvey Levin here. So if you rent a room from somebody else's home, do you still have a right of privacy?
Yes and no. I guess you have the right to privacy to an extent, you know?
What extent? Think about that. What do you say?
I mean, yeah, but it's their home, so if they don't like you doing something, then
Can they dictate what you do because it's their home and you have no rights there?
Yes, a little bit, but it's still an invasion of privacy. Stay out of my stuff, stay out of my room that I'm going to lock.
And you have that right even if it's their house?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Going inside the courtroom.
Now, Mr. Chang, let's discuss your counterclaim. In your counterclaim, you are suing for June $1,275. I understand that part. But you're suing for $2,000 for smoking and drinking. What on earth does that mean?
What?
You see, the agreement is no smoking, no drinking.
No drinking?
Nowhere in there.
No, in the advertisement.
Is that the advertisement? I want to see the
in the
advertisement.
advertisement.
No smoking, no drugs / alcohol. Ugh. I would never rent that place. It does say no smoking on the advertisement if this
Then
was the
also
advertisement.
in
I
interview.
never smoked in this house.
According to her, she wasn't smoking in the house, she was smoking outside. So what evidence do you have that she smoked inside?
Smoke in the house because I smell it.
That's it? That's your evidence?
Yeah, I smell it. And also,
Now, you also are suing for $500 because mess left in room. What mess?
yeah, that's a mess.
Okay.
That's from his painters.
Yeah, and then the room is a mess.
Well, show me the proof of what is a mess.
I don't have anything
Okay,
to
I
prove.
can only rule on what you put in front of me, right? Give me that, please. According to her, that's paint from the painters. It kind of looks like paint. So how would that be her? So that entitles you to get $500 from her. I want to know what school all of you are going to and learning the things you're learning. That this would entitle you to get $500 from her. This, okay.
What?
Now, everybody just stop talking. You have on your side of the table $500 from her security deposit, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. On your counterclaim against her,
Yes.
I find that you're entitled to the June rent. That putting a receipt on her desk and asking her not to leave the lights on in this situation, in this case, where your wife is essentially her housemate, did not so egregiously violate her rights as a woman that she gets to breach the 3-month agreement. I believe that the reason she wanted to breach the 3-month agreement is because she was no longer being able to bring her family into that place. And she's, I believe, using all of this being you putting a receipt on her desk as an excuse, okay?
Wow.
I find that you are entitled to the $1,275 of rent, minus the $500 you already have, so she has to pay you $775. You do not get $500 for a mess in her room. You do not get $2,000 for smoking and drinking that you have no evidence of her doing inside the house. On her counterclaim against you, you don't get $900 in legal fees. You do not get that because you're not winning. I find that you did not have a right to not only not stay, but also get all your rent back for the last 2 months. I think that you have
So
some
he can violate your rights. He is allowed to win a case.
You know what he's allowed to do? He's allowed to put a receipt on your desk and ask you to leave the lights off. That's what your housemate is allowed to do. Verdict for the defendant in the amount of $775. If you don't get it, you are never going to get it. So there is no point in a continued explanation. Good luck, everybody.
Ms. Flowers?
Yes.
Ms. Flowers, if you step over here, let me just, yeah, I'm sure you have something you'd like to say.
On national TV, a man is allowed to walk into a woman's room, violate her rights, even though his lease says that he has to give 24-hour notice. This was for TV. I should have made my own, and I should have handled things on my own. I should have never come here. But if a man can violate the lease after writing on his own that he cannot come in there and go into a woman's bathroom, this world is crazy, and I'm done.
Well, obviously, she is very, very upset. Mr. Chang, I'm sure you must have something you would like to add to. How do you feel about what just went on?
She's a very demanding woman, and yet she's not telling the truth. So
you're going to get $775 back, not the full $3,000.
Which is okay. Which is okay. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, very good. Yeah, maybe things will work better for you in the future. Okay,
you will be. You will be. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you
okay,
so very much. Well, very interesting case, Harvey. What do you think?
You know, I think every lease should have this, but you should establish the smoking policy, whether you allow it or you don't, at the beginning in writing.